of psychology focuses on the potential role of evolution of behavior. Physiological psychology. Perspective of psychology emphasizes the overt behavior of the individuals. The overt behavior of the individuals. Behaviouristic perspective. Behavior of the individual. Behaviouristic perspectives. Emphasize. Thought process is the main component of which perspective. Thought process. Cognitive perspective. Cognitive perspective. Main component of which perspective. Cognitive perspective. Which perspective focus on the changes in behavior and cognitive process over the lifespan. Changes in behavior and cognitive process over the lifespan. Development of perspectives. And changes in behavior and cognitive process over the development of perspectives. Which perspective focus on the changes in the behavior and cognitive process over the lifespan. Development of perspectives. Behavior can be influenced by social and cultural factors. Which perspective of psychology? Socio-cultural perspectives. Behavior can be influenced by social and cultural factors. Behavior can be influenced by the social and cultural factor. Behavior. The frameworks for explaining various events or processes in science is known as theories. Framework of the explaining various events or processes in science is known as emphasizing what comes to mind first or most readily quickly known as heuristics. Emphasizing what comes to mind first or most readily quickly is known as heuristics. Heuristics. Mind fast or most readily quickly. Heuristics. Emphasizing what comes to mind. Heuristic. A systematic study of facts according to a reliable and correct method of study is called systematic study of according to reliable scientific study. Correct method of study is called a systematic study of facts. Method study. The concept of building block of a consciousness as led by. Concept of building block. Building block undut. Concept of building block of a consciousness as led by. Who is the first woman awarded PhD in psychology? Margaret Floy was born. First woman awarded PhD psychology. Margaret Floy was born. In the year 1913, C.G. Jung established his school after separated from Sigmund Freud, which is known as psychoanalytic school. His school after separated from Sigmund Freud, which is known as his school after separated from Sigmund Freud. Which law of psychology deals with the least noticeable difference in the different stimuli? Least noticeable difference. Weber-Fechner law. Psychology deals with the least noticeable difference in different. Gestalt psychology taking its name from the German word Gestalt, Gestalt, which literally means whole. Gestalt psychology taking its name. Gestalt psychology taking its name from the German word Gestalt, which literally means whole. German word Gestalt, which initially means whole. Who promoted the formulation of elementism? Aristotle. Formulation of elementism. Aristotle. Concept of rationalism was developed by Plato. Concept of rationalism was developed by Plato. Who proposed that mind and body are two separate entities are interact with each other. René Descartes. Proposed the mind and the body are two separate entities. Who is an important functionalistic psychologist who was particularly interested in consciousness, memory, and emotions. William James, important functionalist psychology, was particularly interested in consciousness. Who is an important functionalist psychologist who was particularly interested in consciousness, memory, and emotions. William James, functionalist psychology, was particularly interested in. What is the name of a person established the school of individual psychology? Adler. Who established the school of individual psychology? Adler. Who is the pioneer contributor to the cognitive psychology? Jean Piaget. To the cognitive psychology, Jean Piaget. The modern psycholinguistic theory was developed by modern psycholinguistic theory Chomsky. Modern psycholinguistic theory Chomsky. The concept of psychology come into teaching and the first psychology course offered by William James. Concept of psychology come into teaching and first psychology course offered by Abraham Maslow and Carl Roger were the founder of which approach? Abraham Maslow and Carl Roger, founder of a humanistic approach. Humanistic approach. Abraham Maslow. Hope, happiness, optimism, and flow stay together as hope, asa, happiness, optimism, positive psychology. Happiness, optimism, positive psychology. Positive psychology. Wilson was the strong supporter of genes, plays a vital role for shaping of behavior. Genes. Supporter of genes plays a vital role for shaping of behavior. Genes. The role of a brain, body, chemical, central nervous system, neural mechanism are considered which branch of the psychology? Neuropsychology. Role brain, body, chemical, central nervous system, neural mechanism. The role of a brain, body, chemical, central nervous systems. Neuropsychology. Who proposed the famous past theory in psychology? J.P. Das. Past theory of psychology. J.P. Das. Who proposed the famous past theory of psychology? J.P. Das. Famous book Principles of Psychology was authored by Principles of Psychology. William James. According to J.P. Watson, psychology is a science of behavior. Psychology is the science of behavior. Some of our most useful knowledge of human perception borrowed from most useful knowledge of human perceptions. Physics. Some of our most useful knowledge of human perception borrowed from physics. The structuralist intended to identify the building blocks of consciousness. Structuralist intended. Who discovered that all mental processes are not accompanied by mental imagery? And all mental processes are not accompanied. Oswald Kulpe. Mental processes are not accompanied. The functional is strongly influenced by Charles Darwin. The functional is strongly influenced by Charles Darwin. Which created for setting up first psychological laboratory in the United States. Laboratory. William James. United States. Meaning of a flock according to Gestalt psychology. Gestalt perceptual unit. Flock according to Gestalt psychology. Perceptual unit. Who is the father of psychodynamic theory? Sigmund Freud. Psychodynamic theory. Sigmund Freud. Self-actualization is the proposed by Abraham Maslow. Self-actualization is the proposed by Abraham Maslow. Self-actualization. Computer provided a new way to conceptualize mental process and to develop detailed theories, which is known as information processing approach. Computer provided a new way to conceptualize mental process and to develop detailed theories, which is known as information processing approach. Conceptualize mental process. Computer provided a new way to conceptualize mental process and to develop detailed theories, which is known as information processing approach. Computer provided a new way to conceptualize mental process. Who is the famous psycholinguistics? Noam Chomsky. What is the famous psycholinguistics? Noam Chomsky. Which psychology compare human abilities with those of animals, particularly non-human primates? Compare the human abilities with those of animals, particularly non-human primates. Evolutionary psychology. Psychology compare interpret it with the theories of animal, particularly non-human primates. Evolutionary psychology, animal, particularly non-human primates. In which year the scientific psychology was first accepted? 1879. 1879. Scientific psychology was first accepted. 1879. In 1927, Sigmund Freud published the book Ego, Ego and the Id. First issue of cognitive neuroscience appears in the year 18, 1989. First issue of cognitive neuroscience appears. Cognitive neuroscience appears in the year. First issue. The academic related psychological problems are dealt by academic psychologists. The academic related psychology problems are dealt by the academic psychologist. Psychology in the workplace in the subject matter of industrial and organizational psychology. In the workplace is the subject matter of workplace is the subject matter of industrial. Psychology in the workplace is the subject matter of industrial and organizational psychology. Industrial organization psychology in the workplace. According to Darwin, variation in the behavior passed from one generation to next generation is due to inheritance. According to Darwin, variation of behavior one generation to next generation by inheritance. Study of a gender difference is the subject matter of gender difference. Developmental psychology. Subject matter of developmental psychology. Study of a gender difference is the subject matter of developmental psychology. Actually, psychology. The first task in psychology is in psychology case study.